So these then are the peas, and they are growing massively, and I'm pretty happy with them. What I've done is I've added some more bamboo canes, because if you remember at the beginning of the series I suggested that we would put them on just these kind of cages, round cages, and let them kind of flop over, and that would work as well, but not as good as actually putting in some extra canes as well. Plus I like them to grow quite tall as well, and they're just very, very impressive. You can see here some dark purple peas all starting to come about, but I also planted in the center of the cages, I planted two different varieties, heirloom varieties of parsnip. I got these parsnips already, planted them as actual adult parsnips into the ground, and they're growing quite tall as well. So this is actually holding up the parsnips for seed saving, but actually breeding two varieties together to make eventually a stable heirloom variety. It might take me a few years, but I think it's worth doing as well. So that's pretty much what's going on here. Just want to quickly mention as well, I'm watering the peas every morning at 6 o'clock. That's very important if you want them not to scorch, because they scorch in this kind of heat quite easily and quite fast. Now just quickly still on the peas, I have two varieties of peas and also Munch 2 over there, which I will be sharing very soon. Peas don't cross with each other, so that's kind of good news. I will be putting that on heirloomseedsaving.com as well, where you can actually either share seeds or actually get seeds for free as well. People are friendly enough to share them as well and post them out to you. Now the thing what I've done here is I have broad beans here, and I have Swiss charge, and I have actually nasturtiums here as well. I'll talk about those now in a minute, but the first thing I wanted to say is, oh yeah, and by the way, these sticks are for the cats, because cats will actually, a new bed, they will actually start digging away and destroying the plants or the young seedlings. I can take them probably out now, I don't need them anymore. But anyway, what I wanted to say about the Swiss chard is that I've actually managed to thin it twice already, and that's very important if you're doing any kind of direct sowing. You have to thin out, you have to be kind of cruel to be kind, otherwise the actual seedlings themselves will be like weeds and nothing actually will come. So what I've done is, I've done twice, and I'm going to soon take out some more, leaving a nice gap. As they get bigger, I know that the slugs aren't going to eat them anymore, and I can actually leave a nice gap between them. So you will actually down it down to about 15 plants in this small space, but you will get a big huge quantity of leaves, and also great for seed saving as well. You need to have plenty of room for your plants as well. Another thing I want to show you is that when I was making this bed, I actually had a kind of a trench all the way around it as well, and the trench stops all the kind of slugs from getting into the plants and into the beds, and that works really well. You make a kind of a cut down and then up like that, and that I find that really, really effective. Just a simple trick, and that is good to know. And then after about a week or so of having sowed them, I sowed some nasturtiums as well, so that I actually use this space as well, so that I don't lose that space. So that's pretty much on this kind of bed. We'll now take a look at the parsnip bed, and we'll go over there now. Now these are freshly sown. You probably remember me actually sowing them in one of the last videos, and here I actually thinned as well, and now I'm actually going to thin again, but I wait another little while. I can actually eat those. I know they're very small, but I can eat them. But at the same time, I know that the parsnips are going to get nice and big, and then next year I'm going to actually store them over winter in my cellar, and then next year I can plant them like the other parsnips there and get seeds off them as well. Bedford Monarch parsnip is this one, and I will be sharing that soon as well. Again, I did the same thing, made a nice trench, sowed some flowers in here. We have some, I don't know if you can see it, we have some poppies growing over there. We have some ochre. I always mix up okra and oca, but this is ochre. And I got that from Liz in the Fairy Garden on my seed saving website as well. She shared that with me, she sent them over to me, so big thanks to her as well. So that's pretty much, by the way, if you have any questions on anything, do ask away, I'm happy to answer. We'll go now to the next bed, which will be the carrot bed over there. Now in this bed then we have carrots, we have calendula, we have horseradish, and we have onions back there in the plastic thing. I'll talk all about the plastic in a minute as well. But we have here a cross of 2 carrots, which is purple haze and kniff. These are kind of a purple carrot. A dear friend of mine gave me the actual carrots, and I'm letting them go to seed and crossing again, and eventually we will have actually a new, let's say, heirloom variety of carrot, which if you're still around you can help me name it and we'll stick it on heirloomseedsaving.com. I've also planted intersowed another type of carrot variety. This is going to be for next year. It's going to go to seed next year. I'm going to store it again like the parsnips in the cellar, and then we will get seeds off them as well, again for sharing. Okay, so we'll move along to the actual onions and we'll talk about those now. Okay, so we talk about the onions. This again is a breeding of a very kind of high sugar content onion. That means that the higher the sugar content in the onion, the longer it will actually keep. And with onions, actually you see it's got a kind of a plastic top on top of it, and with all onions, if you wish to get seeds from onion, you have to cover them or do them in a tunnel, polytunnel. And the reason for that is they get a kind of a stem rot later on as they're making flowers, and these are actually making their flowers. And what I mean with flowers is they make hundreds of little flowers here, and each one then will have 2 seeds or so in it, and eventually they will ripen. Yeah, so again a cross and of 2 varieties, eventually again stabilizing it, making a new heirloom variety, which I will also share on the website as well. So that's pretty much it. Now I wanted to quickly mention I haven't done any kind of mulching at the moment. I'm still new to Switzerland and I'm just starting to get contacts. The other thing I'm not doing is I'm not doing crop rotation, because I'm only going to be staying in this garden for 2 years, and it will become lawn again eventually after that. 2 to 3 years is the idea. And what we will do then is we'll obviously make a new garden somewhere else. So if you actually have a stable garden somewhere, then crop rotation is a big must, and that's because obviously if you plant the same plants on the same spot, the nutrient will actually be leached from the soil, the micronutrients, and also of course you will get pests and diseases. But if it's only 2 or 3 years, it's not really necessary as well. Okay, so we'll move on to a experiment I'm doing, and we'll take a look at that. Now the experiment I'm doing here is actually planting plants in direct shade. So we have 98% of shade. There's maybe a little bit of sunlight getting through this big apple tree overhead, just through the leaves, maybe very tiny amount. And the first thing that I realized is that lettuce does not need any kind of direct sunlight. So a very good one for actually growing in the shade. The kohlrabi here, it's doing okay, but it needs also much more sunlight, I have a feeling. So that's definitely not a good one for that. We have tomatoes here. These I've actually planted at work as well, the same variety, same time. It's exactly the same tomato. And these ones are a bit more straggly. They're doing kind of okay, and we all know that of course tomatoes need sunlight, but in this case the tomatoes are actually still producing tomatoes, which I find quite interesting as well. The last thing I wanted to say as well is I have another experiment over here with the monchtus, so let's maybe take a quick look at them as well. Okay, so what I've done here with monchtus is I've just also planted them, of course, in no sunlight whatsoever, and they seem to be okay. The peas are a cool loving plant anyway, so far they're doing well. At the beginning they actually are very slow to grow, and very soon you will see they actually grow in masses like the peas over there. But what I'm trying to do here is I've just stuck in a few canes, and I planted them very thickly as well, just to see if they will actually smoke it past. What I've done here is I've stuck in a few canes and planted them very closely in order for me to actually evaluate whether peas will almost hold themselves up if they have a few canes as well. I'm going to take out these ones actually. I just have then these ones left, and that is good to know, because if I ever wanted to plant a kind of a massive area of peas and I have a lot of seeds, I can just broadcast them and maybe harrow them in a little bit, stick in a few canes, and then I don't have to have the headache of trying to build all these structures as well. So that's actually the plan here, just to kind of test that as well. Simple, eh? Just try out different things and see how it goes. Now, as you can see, beds do come in different shapes and sizes, and for instance this spiral bed here that a friend of mine made actually is quite nice. But anyway, what I've done here is I've got the sweet potato pumpkin that I'm breeding at the moment, and the aim is to make a pumpkin that tastes like sweet potato, and this one especially tastes like sweet potato. So I'm trying to grow it that it'll eventually even look like sweet potato, well, close anyway, and then of course make it stable and have a new variety as well. I spoke about it on heirloomseedsaving.com as well, where we were sharing this variety as well. But what I'm doing this year is I'm going to select just for actual taste, and then next year will be shape and size, and taste will be a big factor every year in the selection process. But what's happened here is one of the pumpkins is already producing, but there's no male flowers yet here, so I have to wait until the male flowers come up, and then I'm going to self each one with itself, taste it later, and then I'm going to keep the seeds of the one that actually tastes the best. Now with pumpkins, peas, beans, you can actually do that. You can actually just breed from one plant, but everything else you need to do kind of lines, and that's a little bit more complicated. But that's a good starter for a beginner to actually create their new varieties, stabilize them within 3 to maybe 12 years, and maybe 12 is a bit too much, maybe 3 to 8 years, and you will have then a lovely new variety that you can name yourself, call your own, and it's just a bit of fun as well. Now, pretty much one of the last beds, well, second last bed, there's another one, I didn't show it to you. I have 5 or 6 different pumpkin varieties there, which I will share as well on heirloomseedsaving.com. It's next to the peas over there. But I also have this milpa system bed. You can check those videos out and updates that I've made already if you're interested in that. But I wanted to talk about this courgette plant here. I have 8 courgette plants planted here, and this one was sown in last spring, and I took a creamy one, the male flower of a creamy one, and I pollinated a dark green big one. And that was the mother plant. The dark big green one then produced seeds. I re-sowed those seeds this spring, and I have now 8 pumpkins, courgettes because of it. But what I find is great is these ones are actually making a cream coloured courgette as well. So the cross, of course, was a success. I knew that anyway because I got the seeds anyway, but you can really see it here. Like if you take a look at this cream coloured one, it's not dark green at all. And just to quickly explain the whole thing to you, what I'm going to do now with the 8 courgettes here is I'm going to let the first one, which didn't even get pollinated yet because it has no male flowers, I'm going to taste each one, and then I will be able to say, okay, those 2 taste really good, and then I'm just going to keep those 2. I'm going to self them again, so the male flower of this courgette with the female flower and the fruit, and get the seeds that way. And then I know in time I can stabilize it within 3 or 4 years. Should be no problem. And then if you're still around, we can actually name them together. And that's pretty much it. I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always I shall see you next week, and thanks for watching. By the way, one more last thing, check out this apple tree, because somebody actually planted these apples some 50-60 years ago. We can soon eat apples, and already on this lovely cherry tree we have tons of cherries. So it's time to go harvesting cherries, and so big thanks to them. Another thing I wanted to show you as well, we have of course red currants, which again, thanks to the person who planted them, big thanks. Remember, we actually, in one of the last videos, that spot in there had loads of raspberries and we transplanted them. They're actually doing really great as well. Have a look, they're starting to ripen, and we have raspberries as well. So it's worth planting for the future, it's worth planting for other people, and I'm happy.